I'm Margot K. Juby, and for the past two-thirds of my life, I've been Gilles de Rais's representative on Earth. According to many, he was the first, and perhaps the most sexually perverse, serial killer in recorded history. As well as the purported inspiration for the fairy tale villain, Bluebeard. He was accused of heresy, black magic, child abduction, sodomy, and murder. I've spent the last 20 years or so of my life fighting for Gilles' innocence. I've written poetry about him, and now biography. The only complete and fair biography of de Rais that's ever been written. I think a lot of the people who have written about Gilles de Rais, if not all of them, have been mad in some way. I mean, compared to these people, I am the template of normality. Maybe not exactly, but... Once upon a time, in the blackest tower of the tallest castle of Champtocé, lived a boy named Gilles de Rais. He had all the material possessions he could have wished, but they did not prove a blessing. Whether from love of France or a desire for adventure, young Gilles joined the endless battle against the English foe. It was there that he met a young maiden sent from God. Her name? Joan of Arc. Together, Joan and Gilles proved formidable. For his valor, Gilles was made a Marshal of France. However, cursed things befell our brave hero and heroine. Joan was captured and put on trial. Gilles attempted to rescue her, but the plan failed, and Joan was burned at the stake. Gilles would never be the same again. My upbringing was very working class. My mother was very neurotic and very much concerned about what the neighbours would think. She wanted other people to approve of me, and that wasn't going to happen because I wasn't the kind of person that she, approved of. I've got the neurotic side and the obsessive side from my mother, and a chip of ice in the heart from my father, I think. I just lived very much in my own head and in books. But what I liked to read most was horror stories. The first time I heard of Gilles de Rais was when I got a book by Dennis Wheatley called The Devil and All His Works. And I thought that was the most handsome man I'd ever seen. And underneath it, it said something about the most blackest magician in history. And I just felt that that was wrong. And I could never shake that feeling off, so... Joan of Arc's death haunted Gilles, and his only escape became wild spending. He built his own chapel, gave alms lavishly, and paid actors and entertainers to amuse him and his retinue. But Gilles was weak, spending beyond his means, and was reduced to selling his castles. Like many noblemen of his time, Gilles turned to alchemy, summoning demons in the hope of turning metals to gold. He was now on the wrong side of the law, and he knew it. Oh dear, yes. That's me posing like a moody teenager at Champs, where Gilles de Rais was born. I was very good at being a moody teenager. All I can remember is that there was a small children's fun fair right at the base of the castle, which kind of amused me. Just on the cusp of my 16th birthday, I persuaded my parents that we should go to France, where Gilles de Rais had lived. It was the best holiday I'd ever had. My mother really wouldn't acknowledge my interest in Gilles de Rais. She was very superstitious, and she found it all a bit frightening. I can remember my mother sitting down on the pavement and saying, "I hate this place, they're not civilized." In many ways, that holiday was the way I broke away from my family. It's as if I was more alive then than I've ever been since, really. Gilles' experiments with alchemy had failed, and his family had him declared mad. Desperate for money, he stormed one of the castles he'd sold to fuel his spendthrift lifestyle and kidnapped a priest. Charged with heresy, Gilles gave himself up without resistance. But when witnesses described the rape, murder, and butchery of hundreds of young boys, he sneered at the charges and proclaimed his innocence. Under the unspeakable agony of torture and fearing God's wrath, Gilles had no choice but to confess everything. Bluebeard turns the key and remembers, turns the key to lock the dead ones in. And there they lie, dismembered, fresh or withered, stiffened and helpless. Bluebeard shakes with fear. They had to die, he says. I had to kill them, but not for curiosity. Curiosity kills no cats, nor women neither. Bluebeard never doubts his manhood. Safe from the tattling tongues his knife has stilled, he turns the key. But through his frigid castle echoes the taunting cry. Is that all? Is that all? I think the fascination with Gilles de Rais is that his image is more evil than anybody could possibly imagine. That is why he has remained as Bluebeard and the worst man in the world. I think they would rather have a hero debunked than discover that a villain was really a good guy.
Bonsoir et bienvenue à Nulle part ailleurs. L'invité de ce soir, c'est Barbe-Bleue, le vrai, le fameux Gilles de Rais dont l'histoire et la légende ont fait un monstre, mais qu'un homme a entrepris de réhabiliter. Alors voici ce soir l'avocat de Barbe-Bleue, Gilbert Proutot.
One morning I woke up and Gilles de Rais was on the front page of The Guardian. Gilbert Proutot, the novelist, was approached to write a biography of Gilles de Rais, but then he turned it round and implied that Gilles de Rais was innocent.
L'Inquisition a retiré un héros à l'histoire pour offrir un monstre à la légende, et moi je fais l'opération inverse.
Proutot then had the idea of turning his book into a retrial.
Un ancien ministre, un authentique avocat pénaliste, un professeur de biologie, un sexologue.
Qu'on peut demander un impartial. Alors ça, mais je laisse le soin à la presse et au public de l'apprécier.
People questioned Pruto's qualifications, they questioned his sincerity. Much of what they say is true. He was having a bit of a laugh, but I think he was actually sincere.
Le collège, après en avoir délibéré, décide.
They managed to get Gilles de Rais acquitted.
La séance est levée.
It was absolutely unreal. You know, just, I think there was a picture of me actually smiling. Something has happened today. Something that happens maybe once in 500 years, if that. We are warm and fuddled with light. The geese are innocent of Christmas. The leaves know nothing of death. Something for once has gone right. I didn't realise it was unofficial, and most people didn't believe it. At that point, I'd stopped being somebody who was just interested and I was an activist. And when I eventually did read the trial, it was laughable. The evidence was just tissue thin and it just fell apart. All the eyewitness accounts of murder are produced under torture. There are witnesses who don't appear in court and actually go missing. And the powerful men who staged Gilles' trial had long coveted his estates and wanted him dead. I'd found out things that nobody had ever found out. I started a blog which was called Gilles de Rais Was Innocent. I didn't know what I was supposed to do until I had the idea of writing the book. You know, unless I write it all down, you know, it's gone when I die. And I could die at any minute. I could just step under a bus or... Now that the book is finished, I feel very deflated. I started off with attraction and I probably loved him for a long time, but at the end of the book it was quite sad because I found that I didn't even know him and that nobody knew him. Gilles was sentenced to death by hanging. His only request that he be an example for future evildoers. He died a Christian and was buried among the great Breton heroes of old. And so ended the heroic life of the wicked Gilles de Rais.